Welcome back, everyone. We're focusing on the preface and part 7 today, which is all about mastering phone skills. You wouldn't believe the impact even a short phone call can have.
Yeah, it's easy to underestimate those quick interactions, right? But Lowndes argues they're crucial for building relationships.
For sure. She even shares a personal anecdote about her travel agent, Ronnie, who always sounded so short and almost snippy on the phone.
Oh, I hate when that happens. You think someone's totally different based on their phone demeanor?
Exactly. But when Lowndes finally met Ronnie in person, she was incredibly warm and friendly. Turns out Ronnie was actually smiling and nodding along while they spoke, but those nonverbal cues got lost over the phone.
It's so true. It makes you realize how much we rely on visual cues when communicating.
Totally. And Lambs calls this the telephone disconnect. She stresses the importance of developing what she calls talking gestures to bridge that gap.
Talking gestures? I'm intrigued. What are those exactly?
Well, they're like verbal cues that replace the physical gestures we use in face-to-face interactions. Like, think about when you're talking to someone in person. You might nod your head to show agreement, raise your eyebrows to show surprise, or tilt your head to show you're listening right away.
Oh, yeah, totally. We do those things without even thinking about it.
But on the phone, those subtle movements are invisible. So talking gestures are like verbal stand-ins for those lost visual cues.
I see. So instead of nodding, you might say, or I see.
Exactly. Or instead of a questioning look, you might add, really? Or, that's interesting. These small verbal additions inject your voice with the energy and emotion that would normally be conveyed through body language.
It makes you realize how much we rely on those nonverbal cues to convey our true feelings and intentions. Without them, our communication can easily fall flat or be misconstrued.
Lowndes uses a great analogy to explain this. She talks about her friend Tina, a costume designer who worked on a play that moved from a small, intimate theater to a grand Broadway stage.
Oh, wow. That's a big transition for a production.
Right. The actors were used to performing for a smaller audience, so they didn't adjust their subtle gestures and expressions for the larger space.
I bet their performance lacked impact on that larger stage.
Exactly. And the phone is kind of like that larger stage. Our subtle nods and smiles don't translate, so we need to amplify our emotions and intentions through our voices.
So it's about consciously injecting our tone with warmth, enthusiasm, and empathy, even more so than we might in person.
Precisely. We need to become more aware of how our voices convey our message and really make an effort to project the emotions we want to express.
Makes sense. I know I've been guilty of sounding monotone on calls, especially if I'm tired or multitasking.
We've all been there. But by being more mindful of our vocal delivery, we can ensure our true personality and intentions shine through, even when we're not face-to-face.
So it's like giving a performance, even on a simple phone call.
In a way, yeah. And speaking of techniques, one that caught my eye is the name shower.
Name shower. That sounds interesting. I'm all ears.
Well, Loud suggests using the person's name more frequently during a phone conversation than you would in person.
Really? That seems a bit counterintuitive. Wouldn't that sound weird?
It might seem odd at first, but there's a psychological reason for it. Hearing our name triggers a specific reaction in our brains. It makes us feel acknowledged and valued.
Oh, so it's like a little dopamine hit?
Exactly. And on the phone, where we're missing those visual cues of connection, using the person's name more often acts as a verbal substitute for those reassuring smiles and nods.
Right. It's like those natural moments in person when you might use someone's name, like when you first greet them, want to get their attention, or when you're saying goodbye.
But on the phone, those opportunities might be less frequent, so we have to be more intentional about it.
I get it. Weaving it into the conversation in subtle ways.
This reminds me of the advice to smile before answering the phone. Lowndes actually debunks that common tip.
Oh, yeah. That old think of something happy trick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But she argues forcing a smile before you know who's calling can sound insincere.
Like a generic happy face that doesn't feel genuine. I can see that.
So instead, she suggests the "oh wow, it's you" technique.
Okay, how does that one work?
You answer professionally, and then after you hear who it is, you let a genuine smile flood your face.
Uh-huh. So the caller can hardly hear that warmth and enthusiasm in your voice.
And it makes them feel like your smile is just for them. It feels so much more authentic.
It really does. It's like they've brightened your day just by calling.
Exactly, and taps into that positive reinforcement thing. We hear that genuine delight in someone's voice, and it makes us feel welcome and appreciated.
It's all about setting the stage for a more open and engaging conversation right from the start.
And speaking of getting off to the right start, we've all experienced that sinking feeling of being screened by a gatekeeper, right? Lowndes has some great tactics for navigating those situations gracefully.
I hate gatekeepers. It's like they're guarding Fort Knox.
I know. But she starts by sharing the sneaky screen technique, which savvy receptionists often use.
Sneaky screen. Okay, tell me more. I need all the help I can get with gatekeepers.
So instead of directly asking who's calling, the receptionist might say something like, "Oh yes, I'll put you right through. May I tell her who's calling?"
I see, so it subtly implies the caller has already passed the screening process.
It's like a Jedi mind trick, creating the illusion of access.
I love it. It deflects the call without making the caller feel rejected.
Right. And Lowndes also emphasizes the importance of saluting the spouse
Yeah.
and saluting the secretary. She has this story about a power couple, Mr. and Mrs. Big Cat, and a fundraiser who completely ignored Mrs. Big Cat.
Ouch. Not a good move.
Nope. This minor snub cost the fundraiser millions in potential donations because he didn't realize Mrs. Big Cat had huge influence.
It's a good reminder that relationships are built at all levels. Failing to acknowledge those around a VIP can be a big mistake.
So true. It's about recognizing that everyone plays a role and treating everyone with respect.
Makes sense. You never know who might hold the real power.
And that leads us to another important aspect of phone communication: respecting people's time.
Especially in our busy world, right? It seems like everyone's always rushing.
Exactly. Lowndes introduces this concept called "what color is your time" to gauge someone's availability before launching into a conversation.
What color is your time? Okay, I like this. Tell me more.
Well, it's like a traffic light system for communication. Red means stop, yellow means proceed with caution, and green means go.
So you're basically acknowledging the value of their time before diving into things.
Exactly. It's a simple way to avoid interrupting someone at a bad moment or launching into a long conversation when they only have a few minutes.
It's all about setting the stage for a productive and respectful interaction, making sure both people are fully present.
Right. And you know what else Lowndes emphasizes? The importance of outgoing messages.
Oh, outgoing messages. I admit, sometimes I just hit ignore if it's a long one.
I hear you. But Lowndes argues they're mini auditions, giving a crucial first impression. She even shares some hilarious examples of terrible ones, like the rock musician with ear-splitting music, or the self-important author who talks about themselves in the third person.
Okay, that's pretty funny. But I get her point. Those don't exactly scream professional.
Exactly. A professional, concise, and friendly outgoing message signals you take your business seriously and are respectful of callers.
So it's the digital equivalent of a firm handshake and a warm greeting. Makes sense.
Lowndes even recommends changing your outgoing message every day.
Every day. Wow, that's commitment.
It might seem like a lot, but it shows you're on top of things and engaged with communication. It subtly reinforces a positive impression.
Like saying, I'm here, I'm present, and I'm ready to engage. I like that.
And speaking of making a good impression, Lowndes compares leaving voicemail messages to 10-second auditions, where we had to showcase our personality and professionalism. She even suggests using cliffhangers to make the listener want to hear more.
Ooh, cliffhangers. Now that's an interesting tactic for a voicemail.
Right. It's about leveraging storytelling, even in those short messages, to spark curiosity or offer a hint of something valuable.
So you're transforming a boring voicemail into a mini opportunity to connect and drive action.
Exactly. You leave the listener wanting more and make them feel like they'd be missing out if they didn't call you back.
I can see how that would be effective. It's all about grabbing their attention.
Speaking of attention grabbing, have you ever dreaded facing a gatekeeper?
Don't get me started. It's like they're trained to deflect calls.
I know, right? Well, Lowndes shares this clever technique she calls the ho-hum caper, inspired by navigating restrictive bathroom policies in New York City coffee shops, of all things.
Ho-hum caper and coffee shops. This I've got to hear. What is it?
So it involves casually using he or she instead of a name when asking to speak to someone.
So instead of saying, is John Smith available? You'd say, is he available?
Exactly. By using a pronoun, you subtly imply familiarity, as if you're already on a first-name basis.
That's clever. It throws the gatekeeper off guard and makes you seem like an insider.
It's about projecting confidence and belonging, like you're already a trusted contact.
Oh, I like that. It plays on their assumptions. I'm definitely trying that one.
Before we move on, I have to ask about instant replay.
Instant replay? Is that like in sports?
Well, kind of. It involves recording business calls legally and ethically, of course, and listening back to them later, I have to admit, the idea makes me a little uncomfortable, but Lowndes argues it's valuable.
I get that. It's like watching yourself on video. You never know what you'll see.
Exactly. But just like reviewing game footage helps an athlete, listening back to our calls can reveal patterns and habits we might not even realize.
It's like getting objective feedback on our communication style, right? Seeing those
Yeah.
blind spots.
Lowndes even tells a story about her friend, Laura, a nutritionist who developed this amazing health drink and was eager to get it into supermarkets. She had a call with the supermarket chain owner who seemed really interested.
So this was her big chance.
It was. But during the call, Laura got flustered, stumbled over details, and came across as a bit disorganized. Even though the owner was polite, he never called back.
Oh no, that's got to be so frustrating when you feel like you blew a great opportunity.
Right, and with instant replay, Laura could have reviewed the call later, spotted her missteps, and learned from it.
So it's about turning those cringeworthy moments into valuable lessons.
Exactly. Lowndes emphasizes that recording calls should always be legal and ethical, with consent, and used only for personal improvement. But when done responsibly, instant replay can be a powerful tool.
It's like having a coach to help you analyze your performance and get better.
Exactly. So we've covered quite a few techniques today, talking gestures, name showers, sneaky screens, even instant replay. It's amazing how many subtle ways there are to make a big impact on the phone.
It's eye-opening. I'm already thinking about how to apply these in my own calls.
Me too. It's all about being more mindful and intentional with our communication. And there's still more to explore. Lowndes has even more techniques for taking our phone conversations to the next level.
I'm ready for more. Let's dive into those final secrets to phone mastery. Let's talk about being present during phone calls. You ever been on a call and you can hear chaos in the background, but the person just keeps talking?
Oh yeah, all the time. It's so distracting, like they're not really listening.
Exactly. It feels almost disrespectful, like they don't value your time.
Lowndes has this technique called "I hear your other line" to deal with that.
I hear your other line. Okay, what's that one?
It's about acknowledging those distractions directly. So whenever you hear something, even if you're mid-sentence, you just stop and say something.
Like, hey, I hear your dog barking, or sounds like you're in a busy place.
Exactly. Then you just ask, do you need to attend to that?
It's a small thing, but it makes a difference. Shows you're present and listening.
Like saying, hey, I'm here with you, not just rushing through this.
And it goes beyond just noise. Lowndes talks about being mindful of time zones, too.
Oh yeah, huge pet peeve of mine when people don't consider time zones.
Right. Makes you seem inconsiderate. Lowndes suggests actually translating time references.
So instead of saying, I'll call tomorrow, you'd say, I'll call tomorrow, which is Tuesday evening, your time.
Shows you're thinking of them in their schedule. A nice touch.
It's those little things that build strong relationships, especially in business.
And even acknowledging holidays, like if you're talking to someone during Thanksgiving week, take a moment to wish them well.
Even if we don't celebrate it ourselves, right?
Exactly. Shows you're aware of their culture and value them beyond just business.
It's those personal touches that make you stand out. And speaking of standing out, remember that instant replay technique?
Recording calls and listening back, yeah, still makes me a bit squeamish.
Me too.
Yeah.
But it's like having a mirror held up to your communication style.
You see those blind spots and habits you might not notice otherwise.
Lowndes tells that story about her friend, Laura, who missed a big opportunity because she fumbled a call.
The nutritionist with the health drink. Oh, yeah, I remember that story.
She was so nervous she got flustered and came across as disorganized. The supermarket owner never called back.
If only she'd used instant replay, she could have analyzed what went wrong.
Exactly. Figured out how to improve for next time.
It's about turning those mistakes into learning experiences.
Right. Lowndes stresses it has to be done ethically, with consent, just for personal growth.
But when done right, it's a powerful tool for improvement.
So are you convinced about instant replay now?
Well, I'm still a little hesitant, but I see the value. Might have to give it a try.
Me too. Baby steps.
You know, for me, the biggest takeaway from all of this is the focus on awareness. Like, it's about realizing that every phone call, no matter how short, it's still a chance to really connect with another person.
That's such a good point. It's easy to just get caught up in the details, like, what do I need to say? What questions do I have? Instead of remembering there's an actual person on the other side of the line.
And that person has their own, whole world of thoughts and feelings and experiences that shape how they see the conversation.
Right. It's about being present, really listening,
Mm-hmm.
and, adjusting how we talk to create a more engaging experience for both people.
Exactly. Even though we're not face to face, we're still building a connection. And those connections can have a much bigger impact than we think.
It's almost like we're each directing a little play with every phone call, and we can choose to make it a positive one.
That's a great way to put it. And Lowndes actually says that the best communicators, they treat every call as a chance to shine.
It's about going into it with confidence and, really wanting to make it a good experience for everyone.
She has this great line. It's like every time you pick up the phone, you get to direct a one-act play that leaves a lasting impression. So what kind of play will you create?
That's such a thought-provoking question. It reminds us that we actually have a lot of control over our phone conversations.
We can choose to be intentional about it. And in doing so, we can turn even those, everyday calls into something more meaningful.
Well said. This has been a fantastic deep dive into the art of phone communication. Thanks for joining us. We hope you've learned some valuable tips and feel inspired to up your own phone game.
Absolutely. And remember, everyone, it's not just about what you say, but how you make the other person feel.
Until next time, keep those conversations flowing. And remember, every call is a chance to build a connection that matters.